in the hands of the Bezdin. It must be that this bird wasn't brought to court yet, or maybe the verdict wasn't passed. And you need to bring it to the court. And instead of sending it away, you have to destroy the evil from your midst, which means take it to Bezdin. What's the case of the sanctified bird, where we're saying that you don't have to send away the mother? Are we talking? How did you sanctify the bird? Do you have a nest in your house and you consecrated it? Mm-hmm. So would you ever be obligated to send that bird away? It says when you come across a bird's nest, Pratla Mezuman, it's excluding if it's already in your house. If you own it, it doesn't apply. Ela dechazakein ba'alma. It must be that you saw it in the wild, and that's where you have to send away the mother bird. But instead, va'akdeshe, you sanctified it. Umi kadosh, can you sanctify something that's in the wild that's not yours? Ishki yakdeshes beisai, kodesh amarachmana. Man that will sanctify something in his house. That's what Hashem says. Ma beisa b'shusi av kol b'shusi. You can only sanctify it if it's in your possession. But if it's in your possession, then you don't send it away. Ella dagbinu le'afreichem. What happened over here? You lifted up the small birds, fledglings, the chicks, and vaktashinu, you sanctified them. V'hadar hadrinu, high, and then the mother returns, or maybe v'hadar hadrinu, and then the mother returns. Hayafila b'chulin namilay mechayev.
It says that after he sanctified them, and then he returned the chicks to the nest.
Of v'hadar hadrinu, he returns them. Good. And then the mother returns on top of it. So he sanctified it, puts them back, and then the mother returns on top of it. So then, then over here you won't be obligated even if it's mundane, not because it's sanctified. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Not the less aim. No, I'm sorry, not the less banim. If you take the chicks, and then you return them to the nest, and then the mother returns, you don't have to send away again. They were already yours. Ela da'agba la'aim. Must be that you lifted up the mother to acquire it. Va'akdisha, and you sanctified the mother. Va'hadra, and then the mother returns to the nest. So the Gemara says like this.
Well, I thought the first case was the mother happened to perchance go away, then you went lifted up the ones, and therefore you
own
up, well, that's different from shooing them away, lifting it up, and then the mother happens to come back and sing.
Right. So here we're saying that now you're acquiring the mother, not the nest. The case of acquiring the nest, we said it doesn't matter. Once you acquire it, then you don't have to send it away, the mother again, that they're already yours. So we're saying now that, okay, so maybe you acquired the mother.
You lifted the mother. You
lifted the mother up, and you sanctified it. And now the mother goes and sits back down on the eggs, and you want to take the eggs. So, over here you were already obligated to send away the mother before you sanctified it. And that obligation never goes away. So the Tanya was taught in a Bais, Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef Aimer, Hikdish Chaya. If someone sanctifies, I don't know, Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef, I don't know, I'm not so familiar with that name, but if someone sanctifies a wild animal, v'achkach shachta, and then he slaughters it, Potter melachasis, he doesn't have to cover the blood. However, shachta v'achakach ikdisha, but if he slaughters it and then he sanctifies it, chayiv l'chasis. Why? Shekvanis chayiv b'kisi adam kedim sheyavil dehektish. In other words, if you had an obligation before you sanctified it, that obligation doesn't disappear. So here you had an obligation to send away the mother bird, so you sanctified the mother bird, but you're still obligated to send it away. You didn't get away that obligation. As we see by someone that sanctifies an animal after it's slaughtered, he still has to cover the blood, even though he sanctified the animal.
He's covering the blood because it's a non-kosher animal.
No. If you have a sanctified animal, you don't have to cover the blood because you weren't supposed to slaughter it anyway. And you really can't do anything with this, so you don't have to cover the blood. However, even though you can't do anything with this animal now anyway because you've just sanctified it, but the obligation to cover the blood was there prior, so you're still obligated to cover the blood. So that's what we're saying here, that you're obligated to send away the mother bird even though you've just sanctified the mother, but because before you were obligated to send it away, so you're still obligated to send it away. Rav explains, we're talking about that you sanctified the products of your birdhouse, and then the birds rebelled, and they ran away and they made their own bird nest outside of your property or something.
Breakaway.
And then you go over there, and you see the birds with the eggs. You don't have to send away the mother because it was sanctified already. You could take the eggs. And here's our problem. How do you get the mother sanctified? How do you get the bird sanctified and still have an obligation to send away the mother bird? You can't sanctify it if it's not yours, and if it is yours, you don't have to send away the mother bird. So there's no way of doing this. So he said, well, you sanctified it, then it ran away, and then it made a new nest, and now you don't have to send it away. You can take the eggs without sending it away. Shmuel Amar b'makdish tarnagolte lebedek habayis. Shmuel says, we're not talking about that it was sanctified as a sacrifice or something. We're talking about that it was a chicken. And you said you're going to give the money of this chicken to the temple upkeep. So Bishleim Shmuel layamar karav. Why didn't Shmuel say like Rav? The kamukam lebekatche bedek habayis, because Shmuel wants to tell us a bigger chiddush. Shmuel wants to tell us that there's two types of consecrating property. One is that you consecrate it that it should be a sacrifice. The other type is you consecrate it that it just should belong to the temple fund. Shmuel's telling us that even if it only belongs to the temple fund, you still don't have to send away the mother bird. It doesn't need to be sanctified to the extent that it's a sacrifice. Even though lesser sort of sanctity, still you don't have to send away the mother bird. So Shmuel had a reason for explaining that we're not talking about a sacrifice bird, we're talking about just a chicken that you were going to give to the bedek habayis. El Rav, but according to Rav, my time Shmuel. Why doesn't Rav say like Shmuel? So Amalach Rav would say Dafka kapachi mishiluach. It's specifically that's exempt from sending away the mother. It could go in perish shavchai the kachim is be'echninu. It needs to be the birds of the bird nest that could have been sacrifices, and they could have been sanctified to the altar. The kivan the kachi kedusha saguf, because they are intrinsically sanctified, not value sanctified. That's the difference. If it's a sacrifice, it becomes intrinsically sanctified, as opposed to if it's just consecrated for the temple, then it just has a value that belongs to the temple. So because its body becomes sanctified, so like Paka Kedusha Sayaminaya, then the sanctity doesn't go off. However, Aval Makdish Tanagot Lebedek habayis Lav Kachim Mizbeach, the Kedusha Dame Ba'almahu, it's just a value that you owe to the temple. So Kivan the Marda Paka Kedusha Saya Vacheves B'Shiloh. Rav says like this, that if you sanctified just these chickens, and they create a nest somewhere, because they ran away, so you automatically owe their value to the temple. And those birds are not sanctified anymore, because they ran away. That's the rule. If you consecrate something to the temple and it gets lost,
How much is
and it was a value, it has a value, you have to give the value. So Rav is saying that those birds aren't sanctified anymore. You already owe the value. So that's why he doesn't say like Shmuel. He'll only say that it was sanctified as a sacrifice, because then that sanctity never goes off. Yeah?
How much ahead of time you have to sanctify?
As a sacrifice?
Yeah.
I think just before, maybe when you purchase them, or... Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, Kol hechadisi b'bei Gaza derachmanisi. How do they translate Gaza? Is that like what?
For treasury.
Shmuel says that what are you saying? It loses its sanctity because it ran away. It's in the treasury of God. God owns the whole world. Diksiv l'Hashem ha'aretzim loya. But it still belongs to God. It's still sanctified. So therefore, you don't have to, when you come across it in the wild now, it's still that same sanctified bird. I know it ran away, but it still belongs to God.
There's a Hasidic yid.
Yeah. Hasidic bird. So,
Not to be confused with the chassid bird.
what is the chassid bird?
Hasidic bird.
Oh, the chassid bird. Chinam Rabbi Yochanan b'makdash tanagot lebedek Bais. Rabbi Yochanan says the same thing as Shmuel. Someone sanctified a chicken to the temple upkeep, umarda, and it ran away. So Amalei Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Reb Shimon ben Lakish asked the question that Rav had. He says, "Kivan shemarda pakala kedushase." If it rebelled, then the sanctity goes off. And so, why are you saying that you don't have to send away the mother anymore? So Amalei Rabbi Yochanan tells him, "No, no, it's in the treasury of God because it's in the, it's still in the world that belongs to God. So, what are you saying that the sanctity goes up?" The Gemara says, "V'rami de Rabbi Yochanan ad Rabbi Yochanan." We're going to pose a contradiction of Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yochanan. V'rami de Shimon ben Lakish ad Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. This statement, both of their statements, Reish Lakish's question on Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan's statement is going to be contradicted by another statement of Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish's question is going to be contradicted by a statement of Reish Lakish. The Itmar, it was stated, "Mana zel lebedek habayis." This amount of money is being given to the temple upkeep. V'niknevu oynevtu, and it got stolen or lost. Rabbi Yochanan amar chayav b'achriyusan. Rabbi Yochanan says he was obligated in this ad sheyavol de gizbar, until it comes to the hands of the caretaker, and so therefore he has to replace it. Got lost, you have to replace it. That contradicts what Rabbi Yochanan said before. What do you mean I have to replace it? It's in the treasury of God. I don't know where it is, but God owns the world, and it's still wherever it is. That's where it is. So that Rabbi Yochanan says no, you have to replace it. It contradicts the statement before. Reish Lakish amar kol heichadisa begaz derachmanis tiksev l'Hashem ha'aretzim loya. Reish Lakish says no, belongs to God. What are you replacing? Wherever it is, that's where it is. Kasha de Reish Lakish ad Reish Lakish. There's a kasha from Reish Lakish and Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said before that the bird that ran away, you become obligated to replace it. You obligated in its value, and the bird becomes mundane. That's not true. It still belongs to God, like he says over here. Kash de Rabbi Yochanan, there's a kash of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said the bird still belongs to God. You don't have to send away the mother anymore because it. And here he says that you have to replace that coin. Gemara says the Reish Lakish had the Reish Lakish like kasha. We have a way of resolving Reish Lakish. Very easy. Hamakami d'shamar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi halabasa d'shamar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi. Rabbi Yochanan is Reish Lakish's teacher. First, Reish Lakish held that look, the bird ran away. The bird ran away, and you have to replace it. Well, it doesn't have its sanctity anymore, and you owe the value. So if you come across it in the field, you have to send it away because it doesn't have its sanctity anymore. And Rabbi Yochanan taught him that no, it's still in the treasury of God. It still has its original sanctity. Just because it ran away from you, that doesn't mean it ran away from God. It's still there. So now Reish Lakish knows that, and now he has a statement about the coin. So it's easy to answer it with a timeline. That Reish Lakish said this before, and once he learned it, he says differently. El Rabbi Yochanan kasha, but on Rabbi Yochanan it's a contradiction because Rabbi Yochanan is the teacher. Rabbi Yochanan nami like kasha. It says Rabbi Yochanan is also not a question. Why? Hada amar alai, hada amar harezu. Depends what he said. If he says I'm accepting on myself to give a certain amount, then he says, okay, this is what I'm going to give. So the obligation is already on him. He happened to designate one coin and say, this is what I'm going to give, but if he loses that coin, he already has an obligation. So if he lost the coin, he has to give a different one. Look, you tell someone, I'm going to pay you $100. And then you say, this $100 is what I'm going to give you. And then somebody loses the $100 bill. You still owes him $100 just because he lost that. You can't go to him and say, I lost the $100 bill that I thought I was going to give you. Right? So he says he accepts on himself to give. So what? He thought that he was going to give that one because that's the one he had in his pocket then. He still is obligated. But if he says Zoo, he says, I'm going to give you this coin or something. I'm going to this. Who wanted this? You're going to get this if you do that.
bill.
And then this gets lost. So that is not a. Then he's not, because that's a Zoo. So Rabbi Yochanan that said that it's always in the place of God. That's when he said Hare Zu.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away, and he's not. It's the same. But if he said Hare Alai, he accepts on himself, then he still is obligated. You have to stop over here
Maybe I
could do that for the moment.
tomorrow.
So are you not teaching tomorrow's class? Who's teaching the next few days?
David.
Oh, you're teaching it. That's why you said.